Deep in the wilderness, hidden among thick pine forests and snow-capped ridges, stood an old hunting cabin. It wasn't much to look at. A rough log structure with a stone chimney and a single room. Interior, but for Barry and Conklin, it was a second home. Every winter, without fail, the two men left civilization behind and ventured up the trail to the cabin. They spent weeks at a time up there, tracking deer through the snow, laying in wait for bear, and sometimes hunting coyote by moonlight. To the people back in town, Barry and Conklin were inseparable. Everyone assumed they were the best of friends. They hunted together, drank together, and shared long winters in the cabin, far from anyone else. It seemed like the perfect friendship until one particular winter when only one of them came back. One cold afternoon, Conklin stumbled out of the forest alone. His clothes were frosted over, and his face looked pale and worried. When people asked about Barry, he claimed his friend had gotten lost in the wilderness. According to Conklin, Barry had gone out hunting and never returned to the cabin. A search party was quickly assembled, but a heavy snowstorm swept over the mountains, burying trails and wiping away any signs of where Barry might have gone. Men scoured the woods for days, but the storm made the effort hopeless. No footprints, no rifle, no body. Barry had simply vanished into the endless expanse of frozen forest. The police weren't satisfied. Something about Conklin's story didn't sit right. He looked nervous whenever they questioned him, stumbling over details and growing flustered when pressed. Why hadn't he gone looking for Barry himself? Why hadn't he come down from the cabin sooner? Although the townsfolk whispered their own theories, the authorities couldn't pin anything on him. Still, suspicion lingered in the air. To them, it felt like Conklin was hiding something. The biggest problem was simple. There was no proof. Without a body, the police couldn't prove that Barry had been murdered. For all they knew, he could have wandered too far, gotten caught in the storm, or even left the mountains behind altogether. Without evidence, without witnesses, without a corpse, their hands were tied. So, reluctantly, they released Conklin. Rumors swirled through the town, but legally, nothing more could be done. Months later, spring thaw came. Snow melted from the ridges, rivers swelled, and the forest floor was revealed once more. That's when a lone hunter, walking through the woods near the cabin, stumbled upon a grim discovery. At the base of a tree, half buried in the mud, lay a corpse. It was Barry. His face was frozen in death, and his skull had been caved in by a savage blow. The news shocked the town. Barry hadn't simply disappeared. He had died violently. Still, the discovery brought no closure. The coroner performed an autopsy but could not reach a clear conclusion. Yes, Barry's skull had been smashed, but how? Had he slipped and fallen on the rocks? Had a bear struck him down with its massive paw? Or had someone deliberately attacked him? Beside Barry's remains lay his rifle, rusted and useless after a winter beneath the snow. Strapped to his leg was the sheath for his hunting knife, but the knife itself was gone. Nobody paid much attention to that detail at the time. It seemed like just another piece of equipment lost in the woods. But later, that missing knife would return in the most chilling way imaginable. The following winter, the cabin saw life again. Against all odds, Conklin returned. But this time, he wasn't alone. He had brought along a new hunting companion, a man named Newcomb. The two men hiked up the mountain trail, through the snow until the cabin came into view. By the time they arrived, night had fallen. and exhaustion weighed heavily on Newcomb. He turned in early, curling up in the bunk while Conklin settled into a chair by the fire. The wind howled outside. Snow pressed against the windows. The cabin seemed to sink into silence as Newcomb drifted into a deep sleep. Somewhere in the dark hours of the night, Newcomb was jolted awake by a piercing sound, the sound of a man screaming.